Morning, everybody. It's not enough for us just to be on the defense to say, well, Donald Trump is not a racist, to say that the party of Lincoln, the party of Calvin Coolidge, the party of Reagan, the party of Trump is not a racist party. We have to expose how the party of Andrew Jackson, the party of Woodrow Wilson, the party of FDR, of Kennedy, of LBJ, of Jimmy Carter, of Clinton and Obama, and of Biden is the racist party. And it's not just a historical issue, which first of all people should be aware of the history. There's a myth going around that the party's flipped. The party's flipped. The party's never flipped. Are there legitimate and compassionate reasons why a person would support a doctor performing a medically necessary incidental termination of a pregnancy in order to save a mother's life? That's not only, of course, that's moral and necessary. Is there reason that a person might support what might be called common sense gun control laws? Perhaps. But when you study, now these are two of the sacraments of the left today. You study the history of both of these issues, as well as how they are currently used. Racism, racism, racism. It's not only that the history of Planned Parenthood, which I call Planned Parenthood, with emphasis on the hood, is from Marilyn Sanger's views on race and eugenics. But the current practices to this very day, where Joe Biden was complaining that the new laws in Texas will make it more difficult for Planned Parenthood to lynch black babies specifically, and you tell me that the party's flipped. When gun control laws in Democrat-run cities lead to black-on-black crime because laws do not keep neither guns nor drugs out of the hands of criminals, only out of the hands of law-abiding citizens. And so therefore the law-abiding innocent people of color who are in these Democrat plantations known as the inner cities, enslaved to the Democrat Party, are sitting ducks to criminals. No matter what happens, that those criminals are also people of color, but that's incidental. But the fact of the matter is, removing police from communities that are majority people of color mean that people of color are going to be killed. And the fact that the Democrats, the party that used to do the lynching back in the old days, is supporting this shows that just like the abortion ideology is lynching in the womb, the gun control and defund the police movement is lynching by proxy. And most of all, who did they install in the White House? It wasn't Bernie Sanders, who's not even a Democrat. He's a leftist, but he's not a Democrat. It wasn't any of these other number of candidates who, all of whom I think would do a better job than Joe Biden. It's a man whose mentor was a leader in the Klan, Senator Byrd. Incidentally, Hillary Clinton also was a disciple of his. And she often says she's not a liberal, she's a progressive. The ideology of the Progressive Party is to kill what they consider to be undesirable races through lynching in the womb. So it's not enough just to be on the defense, to show that the party that freed the slaves, the party that championed the civil rights movement, is not racist. And not only to show that the history of the Democrat Party is racist, but to show that the Democrat Party is racist today. Does that mean that everybody who votes Democrat today is a racist? Maybe not. Maybe not. But certainly, the central ideology of the Democrat Party is racism. Is racial essentialism. Is that it reduces people to the color of their skin, which is the whole ideology of the CRT movement that calls itself anti-racist, and then goes and says that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s idea of a colorblind society is racist. CRT that says to keep people of color down by not giving them educational opportunities because of their racist view that they can't really handle it. That's the ideology of CRT, to dumb down the schools. And you're going to tell me which side is racist and which side is not. When you have Joe Biden saying he doesn't want his kids in a racial jungle, when you have Joe Biden saying that if you don't support him, you ain't black, when you have Joe Biden when you have Joe Biden choosing a candidate not by the content of her character, but by the color of her skin and her gender. When you have Joe Biden being the one who prevented that running mate, that vice president, from going on the bus. The segregationist Joe Biden. And that's the guy who's in the White House, the most racist politician since George Wallace, who was also a Democrat. You're going to tell me that a guy from Queens whose daughter is Jewish, who opened up his country clubs to people of color when no other country club would in his area, that guy's the racist. And not the guy who was like, oh, it's Storybook Man, Joe Biden, who said it's Storybook Man, talking about Barack Obama being clean and articulate. Oh, he's not the racist. It's the guy who opened up his country club, Donald Trump, who opened his country club to blacks and Jews when all the other country clubs in Florida wouldn't. That guy's the racist. It's the guy. It's the guy who brought the black unemployment rate to the lowest level, and Latino unemployment rate, and Asian unemployment rate, and women's unemployment rate to the lowest level. He's the racist and the sexist. Not the guy who raped Tara Reid. That's Joe Biden who raped Tara Reid. We have to be on the offense, because they're calling us racists and white supremacists and all these things. They're calling Ben Shapiro, an Orthodox Jew who wears a yarmulke all the time. Oh, he's a white supremacist. Give me a break. You know, and not again the guy who studied at the feet of the Klan, the guy who brags that his state was a slave state, the guy who says you can't go into a 7-Eleven without a slight Indian accent. The guy who says the Indians are taking over my administration. That guy's not the racist. No, Orange Man bad, he's the racist. Again, we cannot merely be on the defense. We have to be on the offense. We have to expose these people for who they are and not be quiet about it and not be shy about it and not care who we're going to offend about it. Because I think a lot of folks who vote Democrat, if they knew the history of the Democrat Party and how that history manifests itself to this day, would be shocked and appalled. But they buy into the lies of the media instead of learning history. And so that's why. Because we have to change hearts and minds. We have to teach the truth. They lied about our president for 4 years. We can tell the truth about the one that they call the president now. And his whole administration and his whole party, how rotten and stinking it is. From Andrew Jackson through Woodrow Wilson, through FDR, who locked up Americans of Japanese ancestry in concentration camps, who wouldn't bomb the tracks to the German death camps, who thought it was a hoot when he visited Saudi Arabia and saw that they still had black slaves. That FDR. LBJ, who took all the credit for a Republican House and Senate passing civil rights legislation that was opposed by the Democrat Party. And then when he signed it, he said he used the N-word and said he'll have the N-words voting for the Democrats for another 100 years. Well, maybe we can make it 50 years. Maybe we can put a stop to this. Because the world can't survive with the destruction that's going on. And the same Democrat Party and the Biden regime that's saying that American citizens who were born in Afghanistan, who came here legally, are not American citizens as far as they're concerned, and they don't care to rescue them from the people that they just handed over a whole arsenal to, a whole air force to terrorists. The terrorist supporting regime is the Biden regime. If you voted for Joe Biden, you have blood on your hands. And I don't care if I offend you. You should wake up and at least next year vote for the party of Lincoln in the Congress, and not let them continue to destroy not only America but the whole world. The Chinese, the Russians, they all see this. Putting a death sentence onto Taiwan. If you don't stop this now, especially after the Beijing Olympics, who knows what's going to happen? It's scary. We can't be silent, and we don't need to apologize. Oops. We don't need to care if we're offending someone. We have to wake people up. Let them know the truth. That when you vote for the Democrats, you're voting for the lynching of 1,000 times more blacks than the Klan ever did in their heyday. Legally. That's what's going on. That's Planned Parenthood. You want to talk about women's health? 100%. There's a place to talk about if somebody has a legitimate medical reason to incidentally terminate a pregnancy to save a mother's life, or for a medically necessary procedure, that's something else. But when they go and say that it's the women of color who are being denied this, it's not about, when Joe Biden specifies that, it's not about women's health. It's about black genocide that the Democrat Party is part of their whole existence, their whole essence. Taking the black fathers out of the homes, replacing with the government, the same thing that they did in the slave days. Parties never flipped. When they saw that President Trump was making opportunity zones, that young African American men were supporting the President Trump. So they got scared and they had to cheat. No Democrat can win with the percentage of the black votes that President Trump got. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. We'll see you later.